You're listening to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
And welcome to Sports on Tap, live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, Sean Duffy. You can follow us at SOT Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram. For all of our podcasts, we do archive them on YouTube and Mixlr, where you can go back and replay any of our podcasts and replay them back. And go ahead and listen and tell your friends about them. Guys, welcome back.
The gang's all back together.
I know. In Studio J, it's been a while.
Full flux right now. We are in full force. All four of us. Full force. Look at that.
Look at you.
Look at me.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well
Good
done.
fun there.
All that time off, and that's the best I came up with. So
That's
I'm
all
out.
right.
I'm out, guys. I'll see you later.
That's all right. You
And-
know what? It's like, never mind.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was going to come up with something.
Dynamite
but
drop it,
sometimes
Monty.
it doesn't
Say,
work.
is it like riding a bike? Is that what you're trying to go with
No,
here?
I was
or-
going to say Avengers Assemble. Avengers
You're
Marvel.
waiting for the
I am.
audio
It's
to
gonna be-
come up.
You guys know that this is the Marvel Avengers song?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can get sued. So turn it off.
No, we just gave them full credit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Movie comes out in May, so
Yeah. Okay.
make sure you go see it.
Marvel
Right.
Marvel
Free plug.
Cinematic Universe can send any correspondence to Josh Jeffy.
RRT Productions.
But we're back in Studio J. We've been kind of on the road for a little bit.
Yeah, racking our brains to really come up with something relevant in Cleveland sports that's happened in the last 3 weeks.
Well, now that
Scratching my head, we're kind of in a dull period, not a lot going on.
yeah, I mean the Browns haven't been doing anything.
No, they haven't been
It's
active
kind of been
at
boring.
all.
Been real boring,
Yeah.
right, Ed?
I'm trying to figure out Josh's Wi-Fi password again, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah,
Because he changed it on us
he
again.
changed it.
really?
Yeah.
No,
Jesus.
hey, listen, we have technical difficulties, but we got those taken care of. Ed, I will give you that password in a moment here. I don't want
That's
to give
all right,
it
you
over
can
the
tell
air.
him.
Just tell him over the air.
No, it's all right. I'd rather not.
And some
His Wi-Fi is priceless, apparently.
Yeah.
But some programming notes for tonight. Tony Brown, we're going to have from the Cleveland Monsters. He's the voice of the Monsters.
The
he has a
voice.
team dinner tonight at 8 p.m. when he was supposed to come on. So we're going to reschedule him for another time to talk little Monsters hockey. It'd be fun to talk to Tony because he's originally from Minnesota and he's traveled to all kinds of different places and covered a lot of different hockey. Kind of interested to see what he thinks with the Blue Jackets and the Monsters and them fighting for the playoffs this year. But he also was a part of the 2016 Calder Cup Championship. He called that last goal in that year, and I know it was a memorable one for him and the Monsters. And he actually made it to SportsCenter. They put him on SportsCenter, and he said that was a pretty memorable moment. So it'll be fun to talk to him on another show.
Yeah, and speaking of the Monsters, we have to once again thank them for having us be a part of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League All-Star Game. We were able to do play-by-play of that.
Yeah.
Those 4 games at the Q, they took real good care of us before, during, and after the game. And not to mention, after that, the All-Star Game, the Monsters played, and they came away with a 4-0 victory. So it was an all-around great night.
And a lot of good fights. There was a
yeah.
lot of good fights in that game.
Yeah, it got a
Yeah.
little testy there towards the end. But, it was a great experience for us as a sports podcast, sports coverage, and we're looking forward to doing it again. So, once again, we appreciate the Monsters and the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League for taking care of us that day.
The Monsters do play tomorrow against the Rochester. They call them the Amberks, but also known as the Americans in divisional play. One of the things I want to talk that I'm excited to talk to Tony about is the changing of conferences and divisions. They've been in the Western Conference and the Central Division for as long as we can remember, they have now switched over to the North Division and the Eastern Conference, and so you're seeing a bunch of different teams. The teams that we're used to seeing them play, they maybe see them once a year now. So I'm interested in what the dynamic is between playing your old foes, playing these new foes, and trying to get used to playing some new teams. I imagine there's just as much an adjustment period for the Monsters playing these new teams as it is for the new teams playing the Monsters on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'm sure Tony's a great guy, and we'll have a chance to talk to him later on another show at some point. But guys, let's get into a little Browns football. We said we'd talk a little bit about their offseason and some of the things going on.
Minor stuff.
Yeah, minor stuff.
Really.
And I know that Cleveland radio has talked about Odell Beckham and some of those trades, and
that's a monster trade if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. They're calling it possibly one of the biggest deals in Browns history. You're getting one of the top receivers.
Just on the good side.
Yeah.
Really.
Great point, Ed.
We only got rid of a Hall of Famer back in the 70s or
Right.
the 60s. That
and
was
then
really
moved
nice.
the team. That was a pretty big deal. So,
But the Browns. This was rumored, a possible rumor. Over a year ago, when John Dorsey, one of the first times he took over, and then it just kind of came out of nowhere. And like John Dorsey said on that Tuesday when it happened, he kind of called David Gettleman of the Giants Tuesday afternoon, just calling to check in, and he got off the phone and told the group in the room, we can get this done. And sure enough, they got it done. It was probably around 8 o'clock that evening, and they got one of the best receivers just getting into his prime too, in Odell Beckham Jr.
Now I didn't look at this info, but how long do we have Odell Beckham for? Isn't he signed for like 2-3 years on top?
I think it's 4 more years.
Is it 4 more?
We signed a 5-year deal in August.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
it'll be 4 more years.
Wow.
None of which is I think the cap hit is all on the Giants
this year.
Yeah. There's
Oh,
obviously
wow.
going to be some cap implications, and I'm not even going to pretend to know I'm not even going to pretend to know about the salary cap as much as everyone else.
Well, but
most others do.
his contract, and I remember looking at
I
his
think
contract.
it's pretty team friendly.
It is pretty team friendly. I think maybe next year he's going to make somewhere around 16 or 17 million a year, and then after that it's around 15 million a year. But he's probably going to get a deal reworked. Especially maybe not this year. There was some talk that he was going to kind of go the Antonio Brown route and get his contract redone before he starts playing, and that could happen. We'll see about that. If not this year, definitely next year. I think it may get redone.
So when you look at this trade, you end up wrapping. I guess at the end of this, you end up wrapping 2 deals into one here.
Mm-hmm.
So the Browns get an edge rusher, which is something that they've wanted to be able to bookend with Myles Garrett. Unfortunately, due to injury, and Emmanuel Ogbah has not been what they thought he would be as a complement to Myles Garrett. So they got Olivier Vernon and Odell Beckham Jr. and I think they swapped draft picks as well. And the Giants get Jabril Peppers, Kevin Zeitler, our first round pick, and a 3rd round pick coming up in this year's draft.
Yeah.
So a lot of assets went back and forth, and I was reading a little bit today about what you gave up in Zeitler. Zeitler's been a very, very good player for the Browns since we signed him. That was one of the better signings by the Sashi Brown group back in, I believe, 2016 or 2017. But at the end of the day, it's a no-brainer when you can get a all-pro wide receiver in his prime signed to a long-term deal for what amounts to be a first-round pick. And it's a lot harder to get an edge rusher than it is to get a right guard or a left guard.
Yeah.
A left guard you can kind of throw some bodies at and hope it sticks. Plus, you have help on with J.C. Treader and Joel Bitonio.
Right.
And
you drafted Austin Corbett.
Exactly.
And they signed Eric Cush, who plays not only center but the interior part of the line as well. So, I agree with you, Ed. Losing Zeitler, that was probably one of the best, if not the best, Sashi Brown signings. Of that, but it also allowed him to be movable because it's a friendly contract for for the Giants. The Giants desperately need help because they've invested in Saquon Barkley, not in a quarterback, so they want to run. And, it allows you to bring along Austin Corbett. It allows you to have, him play maybe more of his natural position. And you're not paying a lot at that particular, if it does work out, you're not paying a ton of money at that position. You can focus that money elsewhere. But even more so, I think I love the Odell Beckham trade. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great trade. He's going to be amazing. But I'm more intrigued by the Olivier Vernon trade because, like you said, I don't think Agua's beyond repair. He may be traded down the line. He could be. But if he's not, now you have such depth at your edge rushers. They could be more effective, especially in a 4-3 where, you're not relying on, Myles Garrett. You almost have that same issue that, when the Texans defense was playing at their best, when they had Jadeveon Clowney, they had Merciless, they had everyone going, with J.J. Watt, you couldn't double team very well because you would be giving up something on the back end. I think what that does for the Browns is give them more options and maybe hides a little bit of their maybe inadequacies at the linebacker position, which they really didn't address much in free agency. And I thought they were going to go that route more so on the defense than the edge rusher. But I get you can't pass up a talent like Olivier Vernon and say, we don't need an edge rusher because an edge rusher is just as good as a linebacker because a lot of these guys can play out in the flats. They can play coverage. A lot of them do drop in coverage. So they almost are essentially a linebacker and a defensive end all wrapped in one.
And let's not forget, they did sign Sheldon Richardson, the defensive tackle, who is not your typical run-stopping defensive tackle. He can get to the quarterback. Same with Larry Okunjobi. So, there's talk around the league that the Browns have one of the best front fours in the league. Now, because of that front four, maybe your linebackers aren't as good, your strongest part of the team. But they do have some players there. Avery came in last year after his rookie year, had a great season. Joe Schobert, he's kind of the leader on the defense. And then you have Christian Kirksey, coming back too. And, he got injured midway through last year, couldn't play the rest of the year. He's a great player, and he's only 26 years old. And I think the linebacking core will be an underrated part of the team, and they will be able to hold their own. Now, what I'm wondering on, they lost Jabril Peppers, who they were finally playing in the right position. They were playing closer to the line. He was able to get back in coverage as well. Who do they have that can replace him right now? That could be somewhere that they look in the draft. They don't have a first-round pick, but
Yet.
They
have assets to move up.
But they do have a second-round pick, so maybe that's something they look at in the draft. Also, don't know if he's healthy enough, but Eric Berry is still out there, free agent.
Justin Houston of Kansas City signed with Indy today for a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
That he was rumored to potentially be out
well,
there.
I think that rumor
he wanted Indianapolis more than any other. Like, that was one of the teams he wanted to go to.
Well, and plus, when the Browns traded for Olivier Vernon, I think that kind of put that to rest there.
But that's one thing that I also point out. Like, just looking at the landscape of the NFL, it doesn't seem like the Chiefs are kind of defensively picked apart a little bit. I mean, you lose Justin Houston, you're losing Eric Berry. You lost Kareem Hunt for reasons in the beginning of the season. But now this whole Tyreek Hill thing, like, everyone's picking, expecting the Chiefs to be this monster team next year. But a lot of that had to do with their defense being able to stop teams from really scoring. And allowing Patrick Mahomes to make plays. And now you've taken away a lot of playmakers from the defensive side of the ball, and there's a potential now that you've lost a top-tier wide receiver. I mean, look, one thing, no matter what happens in the situation, the NFL has never been good about, dealing with these issues and allowing it to be a clear-cut message. So it's going to be in the muck until more than likely through training camp, and, it's going to be a situation where he goes on the commissioner's exempt list, Tyreek Hill, for some undisclosed or undefined, term. And now the Chiefs are there. So it opens up now. If the Browns can they put the pieces in place, but they have to make them gel. I don't see how the Browns aren't, at least a favorite right now going into to be at least a playoff, a Super Bowl contender. I mean, I hate saying that, but if you look at the landscape of the AFC, am I missing something?
Well, they do have the
outside of the Patriots.
They do have the third best odds in the AFC to make it to the Super Bowl. And with Kansas City, yes, you're absolutely right, Sean. It just you're seeing that they have lost a lot of talent, but they still have Patrick Mahomes, who
they signed
had
Tyrann Mathieu,
who had
too.
50 touchdowns last year, and he's a player. And we all saw that quarterback with Baker Mayfield makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And he's riding high. He's got that team playing well. He's matched up really well with Andy Reid, and I think they're still going to be a force to be reckoned with. But I'm with you on the fact that the Browns have improved, but I'm still under. Okay, let's see what they could do. Expectations.
Right.
Let's see how they handle it.
Well, the league is set up so you can have improvement overnight.
Yeah.
That's how the league's set up.
We see it every year.
Yeah.
Despite the fact the Browns were just one game or half a game under 500, they still ended up with the third best record in the AFC North because of the strength of the division.
Right.
So they're going to play a third place schedule next year. They're playing the third place teams from the other two divisions that they are not playing head to head all together. So there's some opportunity there. The talent gap, it has closed significantly between the Browns and the rest of the division. And I mean, you can make an argument that it's probably top of the line right now. But until someone knocks off Big Ben for good, he's still the king of the division. Lamar Jackson, I think, is a gimmick.
Absolutely.
Until he can prove that he can beat a team strictly with his arm and not with this option offense, which has proven not to be long-term sustainable by anybody. You can fool some teams for a couple of days, but once once the Chargers saw it in the regular season, had time to prepare for it.
Yeah.
They were ready for it in the playoffs, and even the Browns to a certain extent. In the first half, it was not a very good half for them, but they were able to put a stop to that pretty quickly, and they were just a couple of yards away from being able to tie the game and possibly win that game.
Yeah, and I look at the Browns next year, and I think you're right. The expectation is that we're going to be good, right, for the first time, and I think.
I think the expectations are division.
I
division.
say for the first
division.
time since I've lived in Cleveland, Ohio, it's going on 10, 11 years now. There's a legitimate feeling in this town that we're good. Like the team is going to be week in and week out a good team. That has not happened in a long time, and I think that's a very good feeling. What I'm very concerned with is, there's a couple of X factors here. This is a new coaching staff. Freddie Kitchens was the offensive coordinator last year when Baker kind of became Baker, right? He's never been a head coach, and now he's dealing with personalities. He's dealing with egos in the sense. I mean, look. Say what you will. Odell Beckham's a great wide receiver, but there's also the other side of Odell Beckham. When he doesn't get his way or when he's a great teammate, but he's not afraid to voice his opinion. And Freddie Kitchens I don't know if he's one of those coaches that.
I don't think he has to, though.
You don't think he does?
No, because you have his college coach on the staff. You have his coach with his one-time coach with the Giants on the staff, and you have his college teammate also on the team with Jarvis Landry.
And I will also. I think Baker Mayfield's going to be a huge part in controlling not only the Odell Beckham, but also Jarvis Landry, who in the past has been known to be kind of a troublesome, kind of stirring the pot a little bit. And I think Baker Mayfield has, even though he's 23 years old, he's got that moxie. He can kind of connect with these guys. And I think Freddie also, something about Freddie where I just think he gets it. As a former quarterback at Alabama, I think he gets it how it's supposed to be.
I guess maybe my whole thing about Freddie Kitchens is this is his first time ever being the guy in the. You know what I mean? Like we all talked about it with first time. This is a first time head coach, basically like at its beginning. So. He basically has been handed we made this delineation when David Blatt took over when LeBron came back. He was a coach that maybe never drove a Ferrari but given the keys to a Ferrari. Is this that same situation? Do you think that I'm not saying Freddie is going to shrink from it, but
I think it's different. You can't compare that to David Blatt because David Blatt came into the NBA with his attitude. I'm a coach. I've won championships, so I know how to do this. Where Freddie Kitchens admitted, I don't know everything.
Right.
I'll call people if I need to. I think Freddie came in last year under tough circumstances, became a first-time offensive coordinator, never called plays in the NFL, and I think he did a pretty outstanding job.
No, he did.
And even so, like Ed said about teams making adjustments. he was able to make adjustments on their adjustments and was able to continue the success of the offense.
I think if we want to go back to that comparison between Kitchens and Blatt was also hired to coach a completely different team than what he was given.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Blatt didn't know that LeBron was coming back. He was brought in to coach a team with Andrew Wiggins and Kyrie Irving as the team. Two young guys that he can work with and develop a team that way. Once LeBron came back and then it set the motion in for the Kevin Love trade, it went from having a couple of years to get your feet underneath you to going nuts.
Yeah.
Like you have to do something because you have a great talent, LeBron James, coming back to you. Now, I can't say that Kitchens knew that Odell Beckham was going to be coming.
Right.
But I think having been around the team the year before in a different capacity, he knows what this team is capable of, and all you're doing is just adding another talented person to its team that is already somewhat talented.
Plus, in the relationship, you talk about Blatt and LeBron, the most important player and the coach did not have a good relationship, where in this case you're looking at the most important player on the team, Baker Mayfield, has a great relationship with Freddie Kitchens that we've seen.
There's a trust. There's a trust
on
there,
and off the field.
Right.
So that's going to go a long way as well.
Well, and talking to John Chandler of New York, he talked about Odell Beckham because he said that a lot of guys look at Odell Beckham as troubling. But he said he's a great locker room guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough credit for being a leader in the locker room. He said he is brutally honest sometimes, and he does say things that sometimes the Giants probably wishes he wouldn't say out in public. But the only thing he said about Odell, which wasn't a surprise, was when he's not around the game of football, he goes out and does things that might be a little bit like the boat situation the Giants weren't a big fan of and things like that. But he said around the team, in the locker room, he's a great guy. Players love him because he's intense. He wants to win, and he thinks him and Baker are going to be such a dynamic duo. And I've listened to a lot of interviews. And if you think about it, I mean, Odell Beckham's your number one receiver. He's going to get the number one corner now.
Sure.
Jarvis Landry this whole season has had number one corners stuck on him. So all of a sudden now he has the number two. And Jarvis, I mean, we know what he can do
And then you throw a guy
when he doesn't
like,
have the top guy on
you
him.
throw a guy like Antonio Callaway, who had flashes of brilliance last year, had a little bit of trouble. But again, he was a rookie. And he was undrafted, right? We didn't draft him, right?
We drafted him
drafted
the fourth-round pick.
Fourth round,
Yeah.
okay. So
But he has potential. He had a potential first-round draft grade on him had he kept his nose clean in college.
Right.
And let's not forget about Rashard Higgins, too. He had a really good year with Baker Mayfield, and I think he's kind of the forgotten guy here. I think he can step up on that opposite end of Odell with Jarvis in the slot. I think that could be really competitive.
I mean, for a lot of the games I watched last year, specifically in the second half of the season, I was like, man, if Baker had just a guy that could stretch the field. Jarvis Landry's a great possession receiver. I don't think he's your guy that can go straight down the field, and he's a deep threat, but he's not the guy that's going to – he doesn't take the top off the defense, so to speak. Odell Beckham does that, and now Jarvis Landry, I think, can work in his natural position in a slot type of way, or even as the two on the other side and get open more, because now they're going to have to pay attention to Odell. They're going to have to cheat a safety over there at least, and now Jarvis Landry gets into those middle of the field type routes where he's able to catch the ball and run with it and let his breakaway speed. I guess maybe Odell Beckham's size versus Jarvis Landry's size is a lot more alarming to a defensive coordinator now, because now you have to worry about Beckham, Landry, Callaway, Njoku, and whatever Duke Johnson's out there, plus Chubb out of the backfield and anyone else.
Weapons everywhere.
There is, and it's going to be it's going to be a challenge getting all that to work together. I mean, I think there's going to be some growing pains there. You do have a very experienced offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, coming over, who is not going to call the plays. Freddie's still going to call the plays. But, in Monken, you have a guy who's been in the league forever, interviewed for head coaching jobs. So you have essentially an extension of Kitchens and him.
Yeah.
And then you have Steve Wilkes, who was the head coach last year.
Got a raw deal in Arizona, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely raw deal.
Absolutely. But their loss is our gain.
Yeah.
He's
a fantastic defensive coordinator.
Absolutely. He was part of the defensive coordinator, I believe, that took the Panthers to the Super Bowl a couple years back. and he knows what he's doing. So you can almost like when you had Greg Williams as the head coach of the defense.
Steve
Jackson kind of just let him do his thing. I don't think he really went too far into that. I think Kitchens will have the same dynamic with Wilkes here. Will, hey, you got the defense. I'll help you out when I need to, but this is all you. So I mean, I don't think delegation is going to be a problem for Kitchens, and being more of the CEO. I mean, because I think we've talked to out of all the high school head coaches we have talked to. I think they have all agreed that being a coach is about 20% of the job.
Yeah,
as a head coach, and this is just a high school level. Imagine it on the pro level,
right,
where you're making decisions that may not have anything to do with what's going on the field.
Yeah.
You're doing media appearances. You're doing all sorts of stuff that doesn't actually apply to the day-to-day football operations.
Well, and not to mention you're dealing with on the field. You're dealing with 53 players. Some make more money than you.
Right.
Most.
Correct.
So and there goes a lot of ego. So I think Freddie has the demeanor to handle this job.
Yeah.
Now it'll be like you mentioned, Ed. Him calling the plays and being the head coach is a lot different than just calling the plays and being offensive coordinator. There's a lot more involved with it, but they did a good job with hiring the offensive coordinator that they did. He actually wanted to come here, he said, because of Freddie and the talent that's here. So the Browns are building something real big. Now, I wanted to real quick ask you guys about Kareem Hunt, because he's the other guy that the Browns, a really talented player that the Browns did sign to a real nice team-friendly deal, kind of a prove it
deal.
He's going to be suspended the first 8 games of the season, but is allowed to practice, fully participate training camp and the preseason. Nick Chubb came in last year, had a great year, great offensive year, showed a lot of signs of becoming a top running back in the league. Then you throw Kareem Hunt in there. How do you guys feel that's going to, once he does come back, how do you think that's going to kind of react, the reaction to the team and the offense in that respect?
I think you're going to end up having a similar situation in the 80s where you had you had the Pruitts, and then you had Kevin Mack and Ernest Biner, where you could have potentially 2,000-yard running backs in your backfield at the same time. That's what I mean. I think it's legit. I mean, given all the other weapons that are on offense, I think they'll be able to run wild because you're not going to be able to pat the box just to stop them. When you have enough,
they're going to make you pay.
Absolutely. And we're starting to see with Dorsey is iron sharpens iron. Like
yep.
you bring talented team players in, and you kind of just figure it out from there. So I can't tell you what's going to happen between Chubb and Hunt once Hunt's back. Chubb's going to have an 8-game head start on him to try to keep him on the bench. At the end of the day, though, Kareem Hunt is undoubtedly one of the best running backs in pro football. We got him on a very cheap deal due to some very, very unfortunate circumstances in his personal life. But at the end of the day, talent pays. Mm-hmm. You can never have too much talent on a team, and if they can't find a way to figure it out, I have full faith that Dorsey will make the right move. Right now he hasn't shown us any reason to not trust him what he's doing. I mean, that's just the fact. That's the fact of the matter. It's not like Sashi Brown or other folks who have not had the football connections that John Dorsey has. That's running the show here. I mean, the big reason why we were able to get Odell Beckham is because Dorsey is well connected. He's been friends with Gettleman for years.
Yeah.
And any of these other trades, he went to the Green Bay well to get Demarius Randall. That was one of the best trades we made last year, trading DeShone Kizer for Demarius Randall.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic trade when you think about it.
Yeah, and last year Dorsey made 14 trades.
Yeah.
I mean, and like you said, Demarius Randall for Kizer, that was just highway robbery.
I think the Kareem Hunt issue, and again, you have to separate the off the field incident from the on the field.
Yeah, we're
production.
just strictly talking.
I'm talking on the field.
Right.
He's back in 8 games. In essentially what you've done with that, and the Browns really got lucky because he could have easily been suspended for the entire year, and you're paying him that money no matter what. Now you get him for the last 8 games of the season, so to speak. A potential playoff run.
Yeah.
And you've got insurance that if something happens to Nick Chubb, You can maybe use Duke Johnson, spare or a guy, and knowing that you have Kareem Hunt coming off the bench, 8 weeks later. I don't think anything's going to happen to Nick Chubb, but again, he does have that that history of injury, and the offensive line has a little, may take a little time to gel. You never know, but again, one of the oft injured positions in pro football is the running back position, and it's a lot of wear and tear. So what you're doing now is saving, and like you said, you're saving a player from taking not 100% of the snaps, whatever Nick Chubb's workload is, and you're extending his season, possibly his career, by saying, look, we have Kareem Hunt out here, and Kareem Hunt was very good in catching the ball. I could see Kareem Hunt being in a better version of Duke Johnson. And in the sense that, now a swing pass out to Duke Johnson doesn't go for 2 yards. It has the potential to go for 20 yards because he's elusive, but he's also a bruiser back. So once he gets the ball, he goes straight down the field. It's not, as much as I love Duke Johnson, when he gets the ball, sometimes he dances, sometimes he tries to cut up and he loses yards because he's trying to make something happen. Kareem Hunt is, give me the ball, I go as far as I can go, and I'll get back up and get back in the huddle. That's the way he runs the ball. So I think getting Kareem Hunt and getting that 8-game suspension just gives us more confidence going into the season, saying, look, now with all the weapons we have on the outside and the perimeter, if something were to happen to Nick Chubb, there's not that huge fall off. Now we still have that consistency running the ball. And I think that's a very big confident for Freddie Kitchens' offense. I think that's a very good thing because he relied on that run to open up the passing game for Baker Mayfield.
Well, I think we've seen, too, that there have been multiple times where a stud running back goes out and there's a more than suitable replacement there to take their place. So let's go back to Kansas City. Once Kareem Hunt got suspended, Damian Williams came in and pretty much picked right up where he left off.
And played great.
Played very well. And James Conner, obviously in Pittsburgh, played very, very well in the place of Le'Veon Bell.
C.J. Anderson last year for the Rams.
Exactly. So, by having that depth on your team, it does nothing but help you out. Whether if Chubb gets hurt, even if you keep Duke, I have to imagine you're going to keep Duke Johnson on the roster as long as you can, unless someone completely blows Dorsey away with a trade offer for him, which, quite honestly, I don't really see that happening. If he hasn't been able to break through as a number one running back on a bad team for the last 3 years, I don't know who's going to unearth him and say, oh, yeah, you're our number one running back. For a price that Dorsey would be comfortable saying, you know what? Yeah, I'll trade you to him.
I think of maybe like the Patriots or somebody. That's something the Patriots would do is take a guy like Duke Johnson and turn him into what they did with Corey Dillon when he left the Bengals, or what they do with I can't think of his name.
Deion Lewis.
Yes, Deion Lewis. In that sense, that's Duke Johnson's one of those players where, in the right system, he's a very effective tool, and I don't know if he's in that right system anymore with Freddie Kitchens. I think Freddie Kitchens utilizes the running back very well, but I think Duke's skill set was set more for a team that allowed him to play more of a lot of out of the backfield or a lot into the flats and let him make plays. But in today's NFL, you throw it into the backfield, you get a linebacker. There's still that delineation. There's still that drop-off from a linebacker covering a running back, but it's not as much as it used to be. And I think Duke Johnson's kind of the casualty of that issue.
I kind of disagree with you because you just 2 minutes ago said that Kareem Hunt is a better version of a Duke Johnson and he could be successful catching the ball out of the backfield.
Well, I'm saying he was successful catching it out of the backfield.
And I think Duke Johnson, I think Duke Johnson, if he's here, can fit in this offense very well. It's just a matter of whether or not he's going to be able to get touches, and he's going to be able to get once Kareem Hunt comes back. And I think Dorsey's now kind of weighing the options of, hey, someone might be offering me something for him, and he can go to somewhere like, I don't know, the first two teams that came to mind, somewhere like Dallas or Philadelphia, where they need that second running back, or in Philadelphia's case, that first running back to be that guy that can, run the ball 10 to 12 times a game, but can also catch 5 to 6 balls a game, so you're getting 17 to 20 touches. And Duke Johnson is that guy. Yeah. I just don't think on this team he's going to fit that mold of getting that number of touches where you got guys like Nick Chubb who can run the ball, and with the amount of receivers on weapons in the receiving corps that the Browns have. So I think Dorsey's weighing that. He has something now. The Browns aren't used to having people that maybe are players that other people want. So now he's weighing the options. Well, do I keep him now and, keep him on the roster until Kareem
Until the trade deadline.
Well, yeah, but you're dealing. He's going to be dealing from a position of strength, though.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not like if people want, he can store Duke Johnson on the bench if they need to, or just keep him on the roster. If someone really wants him, they're going to have to come up with an offer that Dorsey cannot refuse, and that's where you want to be in this situation. I mean, you can tell Gettleman in the media, and I'm not in. Has been saying, well, we were dealing from a position of strength. That's why we were able to get what we wanted for Odell Beckham. He's spinning it like, oh, we got 2 first-round picks. Well, yeah, you got Jabril Peppers, who up until last year, and I don't think it's really through any fault of his own.
I was going to say he was kind of playing out of position.
I agree.
A little bit there.
I don't think
50 yards off the line of scrimmage.
I don't think it's his fault that he was playing in that position. And last year we got to see we steadily saw glimpses of what he is capable of doing. Now the Giants are going to reap the benefits of that. But that said, you'll make that trade all day long for an all-pro wide receiver who's going to put points on the board.
Exactly.
Where that it's a scoring league. I mean, and Jabril Peppers is not a game-changing safety, not nearly to the extent that Odell Beckham Jr. is a game-changing wide receiver.
He may get there someday. But
yeah, he has potential to be
like Ed said,
in
order to get something, you need to give something. And
you did the same thing with Zeitler and Vernon, too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just to go back to your point, what I meant when I said Kareem Hunt's a better version of Duke Johnson is Duke Johnson's very good at catching the ball out of the backfield, but not very effective in being a traditional running back. He's not built for that. He's more of a guy that's a scat back or could be run on the. What I'm saying for Kareem Hunt is he has the ability to run between the tackles. He's a 3-down back, but he also has that ability to get outside and catch the ball and be effective in space as well.
I don't know if Duke really has gotten the opportunity here.
He may not have had, but I'm saying given what we know about Kareem Hunt and given what we've seen with Duke Johnson, I'm saying Kareem Hunt is would be a better version.
I agree with you there.
You could put him behind behind a fullback and say run 4 yards, 5 yards in a cloud.
Now
dust.
he agrees.
Yeah, now he agrees.
Well, I agree.
What I'm saying is before Kareem Hunt came to this team, Duke Johnson was a fantastic backup to Nick Chubb. Yeah. But Nick Chubb is your primary running back because he was effective. What I'm saying now is that Duke Johnson or Kareem Hunt is a better version of what we already had in the backup.
And if the Cleveland Browns were looking for an offensive lineman, Sean Duffy is available.
No, I will get
He went to the Ohio State camp and
was told that I should go to school.
But
thank you, Jim Tressel. That was the greatest
Sean's
5 minutes of my life.
He's looking for another chance.
No, I'm not. I'm looking for
I
want the Joe Thomas diet so that I can look like Joe Thomas. I currently look like Joe Thomas during his playing days. I would like to look like Joe Thomas after his
listened
playing
to him
days.
on the Dan Patrick Show. He was on the Dan Patrick Show, and he said some pretty interesting things. Like he basically ate food because he had to, and he basically ate to the point where he felt sick. It wasn't comfortable for him at all. And then now it's a little easier. Now he just eats what he wants, and he said he's never really been a big eater.
He said he limits his carbs.
Yeah, and he said it's really hard for guys to maintain that 300 level. It's just not natural unless you're Sean. But
yeah,
I'm just kidding, Sean.
You know what? I want to punch you in the mouth right now. Are we due for a break? Because
we
are.
With the amount of calories that the offensive linemen burn in their respective in their craft, I mean, anytime you see an offensive lineman retire and say they show up on media, like look at Jeff Saturday. He was just playing a couple of years ago. He is probably about the same size as Joe Thomas. Sean O'Hara, he's on now. He's on there now. I mean, he's been on there for a couple of years, but same thing. Like these guys, you're right. They eat literally tons of calories just to maintain their playing weight, and when they're done, they don't have to do that anymore. It just kind of melts off them because they're not. Yeah. They don't need as much food to keep up with the amount of calories that they're burning.
And for wide receivers, they do the complete opposite. They don't eat that much, want to stay thin, and then after football, see you later.
Well, the same thing with basketball players too. I mean,
that's true.
They burn so many calories that they have to eat more than they normally do. So. Any hoozle.
Well, we'll take a short break.
I'm going to punch Josh in the face.
Hopefully Josh will still be sitting here running the board.
It's not if I'm out of breath coming over to the table at him.
We're Sports on Tap.
Ass.
We're going to talk a little March Madness basketball. We'll go through some of the brackets in our league and see who's leading. And last time I checked, I thought Josh Jeffy was leading the way. We'll see where that update goes. Oh, now it's tied. Probably with Ed Dick, I'm going to assume.
That's okay. Still early.
Still early. Still a lot of games left. We'll be back. We're Sports on Tap.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. Contact us at sportsontap.podcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out neosportsinsiders.com. neosportsinsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at neosportsinsiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. neosportsinsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. You can catch us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We archive all our shows on YouTube and Mixlr. Go to our website, though, sportsontap.podcast.com.
Good to be back.
That's Sean Duffy. We have Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy. I'm Rob Troutman.
Hello.
We're going to talk a little March Madness, and some of the brackets that we have in our league are pretty impressive. It's early on, though,
this
now.
Is what, the fifth ipso facto bracket
Yeah,
challenge
I
that
think
we
so.
have, and this is the most that we have. Hey, Ed, can you quickly go over and tell the listening audience, and maybe Rob and Sean, who's tied for first place?
Right now, the team aptly named Kitchens Full. It's funny because it's for Freddie Kitchens, and the Browns are loaded on offense. Is currently tied with Mr. Josh Jeffy, whose bracket is not picking Duke to win it. I haven't actually seen this.
What a mistake.
Okay, he at least proved that outright, so that's good. We also have Andrew.
Andrew Gons.
Guns.
I was called out earlier this week on Twitter
By the North Ridgeville
head
football
coach Luke Durbin. He wants a piece of me in this bracket, and I think
Muggies,
and I
Victorious
think I'm-
bracket,
I think
and
I'm
Mike
doing
Creek
it.
bracket.
I think I'm doing okay.
Well, you're tied for sixth with
It's
everybody else.
early.
Okay, well,
Tied for sixth. Everyone
top
else.
six, top six, Ed.
Yeah.
But am I at the top end of the top six?
I don't think it matters.
I do.
You're
Well,
right.
it does
You're
because
right.
it's got maximum points, and
It's
as of
early.
right now, Coach
No, it's not by
Durbin,
maximum points.
possible points.
It's not by possible points either. Look, there are multiple people with six that have the 190s that are under the 180s.
You're right.
But I think they know who. I mean, they look at their bracket like this guy knows
Well-
what he's talking about.
Well, in this case right here, Luke Durbin is above Sean in the standings.
Not for long,
that's all I
Durbin.
care
I'm
about.
I
coming
don't
for
know
you.
who Rick is, but I have to give you that's a solid bracket name.
Yeah. Some of these names we can't say because it's a
played
family
there.
show.
Simply, yeah.
He's an 80s wrestler. And
Yeah, Ravishing
that's
Rick.
fine.
I
Nothing
can't
wrong
find the
with that.
standings.
Rick.
This is
We'll
crazy.
pull him out. Rick Schultz. He is a fellow coworker of the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District,
Nice.
and I do call him the Ravishing One.
We have 19. So we have 19 participants, which you're right. I think this is the most participation we've
Well,
had.
you know
in this
why?
tournament.
Because we put a $25 Amazon gift card on the line this year. We're going big and bold. Not like past years where we did 2-year-old home brew kits.
And it's-
Yeah, and the winner was out of state, so I think it's still in my
It
basement.
cost us more to ship it than it was.
So
it
it's
was
still in
worth
my
it.
basement, probably.
took us 5 years, but I think we finally figured it out.
Gift cards. Awesome.
gift cards. And
So-
if anyone out there would like to sponsor our Ipso Facto
Yeah.
Bracket Challenge and come up with something better
Are
than
you a business that wants to get
Rob's
noticed
creating
in
a
the local
prospectus to send out
community?
to upcoming sponsors.
That's right.
It's awesome.
If you're a business that wants to get in the local community and be part of the ipso facto bracket,
Starting next year.
yeah, starting next year, yeah, we're
I'm
kind
not
of
sure we can do this in mid tournament, but I mean, worth a shot.
yeah, that's
We're not
right.
We're not going to turn it down.
I just don't understand how I've looked at some of these brackets and like some of the picks to win it all. I mean, usually they fall
Yeah.
into like two categories. Duke, North Carolina. Really, those are the 1 and 2s, I think. But I've seen someone where like Michigan State's a winner,
Hey, never know.
or someone has like Villanova coming out.
I got
of the
Michigan
bracket.
State in the final.
You do?
Yeah, Michigan
Over-
State.
You have
And
Michigan
Florida
State beating Duke.
I have Michigan State beating Duke. I said my bracket says Duke is not going to win it.
Yes, I'm aware what your bracket says, but that's a
you
bold
know,
choice.
and Duke is the #1 overall seed in
Yeah.
the tournament, and
Yeah.
I heard this on I believe SportsCenter. I heard it on the radio somewhere. I forget the source.
Yeah.
That since 2004, when overall tournament rankings, overall like seeds came into play, they officially announced them. Only 3 #1s in the last 15 years have won it all.
So you're betting that this is
So I'm going Duke
you're
or the
going-
field.
you're
I'm
going
going
the
the
field.
field.
I will
Okay.
say that if we're looking strictly at how that ranking pops out, that means that Michigan State was the worst ranked number 2 seed
Yeah.
as the Big Ten regular season and tournament champion for a conference that got 8 teams into the tournament.
Yeah.
I think they were a little underseeded there. If you ask me.
Michigan
Exactly why I picked them to win.
Michigan was a
They could barely beat Bradley. I mean, I have them
Well-
going. I have them going to lose to Duke in the Elite Eight, but I also have a lot of faith in Izzo to take his team wherever he needs to go. Sometimes they're susceptible to these early round upsets.
Yeah.
See last year.
If they
or
play
2
like
years
they
ago.
did against Bradley, they will get beat.
Minnesota.
Because Minnesota's no joke.
Minnesota. I was a little surprised at that because I watched Louisville this year, and they were a pretty impressive team all around, and Minnesota just defensively did some work on Louisville. But right now there's some pretty good games going on. Florida right now up on Nevada 48-33. So we're seeing some interesting games, and there's some good games again tonight. How about Gonzaga, though, right now? I mean, they're the number 1 seed, but they're taking care of business 53-17 at halftime.
Yeah, they're putting a hurting on Fairleigh
Yikes.
Dickinson. It was a good run in Dayton for Fairleigh Dickinson. Unfortunately, that's going to come to a crashing halt.
Yeah.
Unless
tonight.
they have a miracle in them still.
It's going to be tough when you're down by, 40-something?
Here's Ed's game that he's interested in. St. Mary's and Villanova
I think
tied
everyone's
at
interested in
25 with 3:37 left in the first. That's going to be a tough game.
I think there's a lot of people watching that game right
because
now.
that's a bracket, and Ed and I were talking about this during the break. That's a matchup where it's really the first time I've seen it in a long time where two teams are just massively underseeded. Like St. Mary's had I think the fact that Gonzaga came out of the Western, the WAC, right, or WCC, is that what it is?
Who's that? St. Mary's?
St. Mary's and Gonzaga are in the Western
West Coast Conference.
West Coast Conference. Like, those are two top-tier teams. I think St. Mary's was a bit better than an 11 seed. They should, in my opinion, they should have been probably in an 8-9 matchup. And I think Villanova, the 6 seed's a pretty low seed. Granted, Villanova wasn't as good as they were last year when they were, when they won the national championship. But I don't think a 6 seed. I thought they would come in more so at a 5, maybe a 4 seed, and get a bit more favorable matchup. Like, this is probably, it's a great way to stir up a really good game in the first round between two teams that are probably better than their seedings, and we're seeing it now. It's a tight game. But when I saw the brackets roll out on Sunday, I was pretty shocked that both Villanova and St. Mary's not only were seated where they were, but also matched up against one another.
Well, yeah, and you're right. It is the WCC for Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and maybe more teams out of the WCC will get more credit because how good Gonzaga is. Every year they're there, and people. They're getting a number 1 seed. That's huge. They've only lost 2 games this year, 29-2 for Gonzaga. But overall, look at some of these games. This is when sometimes you get the upsets and sometimes you don't, but. There's going to be some intriguing matchups even tonight. You look at Montana and Michigan. I'm interested to see Seton Hall against Wofford. I think that's going to be a really good matchup there.
And we already had the obligatory 12-5 upset with Murray State absolutely destroying Marquette.
That surprised me.
I think that was I'm not surprised by the
result, yeah.
But by them just beating Marquette as much as they did. I'll agree with you on that.
I'm upset because Marquette was a Sweet 16 team for me.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Well, Murray State's got the same makeup as of these types of teams that I'll go back to the Wally Zerbiak comparison back in the late '90s. They were an at-large team, but who's to say that Murray State wouldn't have been an at-large team had they not won their conference tournament? They have one dominant player who can carry a team.
Going to be a top 5 player in the draft.
That's right, Josh.
For sure, a lottery.
Maybe
pick.
on your Cavaliers.
Maybe.
I do have I'm believing in a little bit of action here. I got Buffalo going a couple rounds.
I as well.
I saw them in person, and they were ranked 19th this season, and they're just all around. They have some impressive play in the paint, in the low post, but they have outside shooting from all areas. You have to cover. When I went to the championship game, one thing Bowling Green did defensively was fall asleep on back picks, and they were able to get around the perimeter, guys open, and if they're open, they're not missing shots. So I think Buffalo, they could be a dangerous team and maybe have a few upsets. It's going to be interesting to see them play Arizona State and Bobby Hurley because Bobby Hurley used to be the coach of Buffalo, and he left to go to Arizona State, so there's some good storylines there. But is Buffalo going to be able to pull off I guess it wouldn't be an upset because they're the higher seed. They're the 6th seed.
Right.
But it's going to be a fun one to watch. And I'll be rooting for Buffalo. I like to root for the Mid-American Conference, and I wish Maybe another team, even in the NIT, got in. Toledo, I think, got in the NIT and they got bounced right away. But a Bowling Green that goes 22-11, they're going to be good next year, and hopefully the MAC can get a little more credit.
Well, the problem with that, the problem with the MAC is they haven't been a two-bid team in forever.
Yeah.
They have to win a team like that has to win the conference, and that's exactly why. Or the conference tournament, sorry. That's exactly why Keith Dambrot left Akron, because he had to go to a different conference where.
Where did he go, by the way?
Duquesne.
Okay. I couldn't remember where he went.
And the problem that he had was Akron would pile up gaudy records left and right, and then they would lose in the championship game of the MAC tournament, to OU, to Buffalo, to Kent, and then they'd be left out, hanging out to dry, because they were never given that mid-major bump saying, hey, you played a great schedule. We're going to let you – you guys have a great record. We're going to let you guys in. There's still a lot of power conference bias here. Honestly, I don't think Ohio State was a tournament team this year.
Oh, I was shocked that they got in.
The fact that they got in, I agree with you. The fact that they got in, believe me, I'm happy. I like Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree.
And for some reason, when I was watching the brackets come out, the Iowa State game – Iowa State popped up first. I'm like, if there's anywhere Ohio State's going to fall, it's probably going to be here, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
In this bracket, specifically in ours, I have Iowa State winning a couple of games, and some other ones that I'm doing. I have Ohio State winning because I'm a homer. I have no other reason. Iowa State won the Big 12 tournament.
Beat some good teams to do it too.
Ohio State, they have one really good win. At two good wins at Cincinnati and Creighton, but that's really about it. Big Ten, the Big Ten Conference, 8 teams got in, so that speaks to the depth of the Big Ten. And it was not a bad conference. You have more than half your teams get into the NCAA tournament.
But they really struggled. Like they were impressive in the beginning of the season, and they really tailed off and struggled offensively. They struggled to put up points. Defense was not an issue. It was putting up points, and they had some really bad losses, and then they got bounced in the Big Ten tournament pretty early on.
Well, at the end of the day, too, though, if you're Chris Holtman, you have the team, you're trending in the right direction. You've now been in the NCAA tournament twice in your first 2 years. Last year was a surprise year. I think we all can agree on that.
Yeah.
And they lost to Gonzaga. there's no shame in losing to Gonzaga there. They had a really good regular season last year. Got themselves a really good seed this year. I think right now they're playing with house money. They have nothing to lose. If they lose, no one's expecting Ohio State to win any games in this tournament.
Nope.
So
that's true.
I think it can help them out. They can play loose and just play whatever game they want to play.
Yeah. You're right. All the pressure's on Iowa State right now. Not just because they're the higher seed, but because they won the Big 12 pretty impressively against teams like Kansas State, who also made the tournament, Baylor. So Iowa State is a team that everyone's expecting to do well. However, their history in the NCAA tournament, when they're expected to do well, is not very good. They had a lot of really talented teams get early exits, get surprised by a team maybe they didn't take advantage of. So we're seeing that. Hopefully they can correct that. But if you just look at the top tier teams, it's hard not to see a road, barring some sort of really unexpected win or really unexpected upset, to not see a situation, at least in my opinion, to where Duke and North Carolina are the two best teams in the country. And if they're playing, for a national championship, then the NCAA is a happy organization, because that's two blue blood teams that, you got Mike Krzyzewski, you got Roy Williams, you got Duke, North Carolina. They played a couple of times. I think it's pretty even over the season. I think they've won a couple. I think
Carolina's beaten them twice without Zion Williamson playing for Duke, and then Duke beat them in the ACC tournament with Williamson playing.
So we'll see, but I like
see if he can stay healthy.
I like North Carolina. I like North Carolina in the sense that they play a really, really the few times I've watched them, they play a really, really good defense, and they play team defense, which is interesting to see in college basketball. In a power conference, a lot of times they rely on stars. It's a lot of, almost AAU type basketball where it's just points. And not to say that those teams aren't good, but like, when you have Duke, when you're Duke and you have RJ Barrett, you have Zion Williamson, it's hard not to just kind of rest back and let those guys score. So North Carolina has beaten those guys. Granted, without Zion Williamson, and we understand that, but they still have to beat the other guys. I mean, they had the top 3 recruits in the nation. So losing Zion Williamson, yes, probably helped them a tad bit, but you have RJ Barrett to contend with. You have other guys on that team that are just as good and are just as able to put up points, not just as good as Zion Williamson, but maybe can, give you problems that are not Zion Williamson problems. So they have a very good defensive structure. Now, what North Carolina has in comparison, I think, a little bit like Ohio State, is that they have a very streaky offense. At times, they kind of maybe rely on the 3-point shot a little too much. They don't really push it into the post a lot unless their shooters aren't doing well. I've seen and just to kind of go back on your Ohio State thing, is in certain areas when Ohio State was having their most successes when they were playing it inside out and allowing penetration into there and then kicking the ball out. Where Ohio State kind of fell off was when they were relying too much on the perimeter shooting, and if those teams weren't, if those guys weren't hitting, then it was almost like they forgot how to get it into the post, or maybe they gave up on the post early. So I think it behooves teams like North Carolina and Ohio State to play a whole complete game and not rely so much on one aspect of it. And I think that was the big problem, at least that I saw, the few games I saw of Ohio State, was every time they kind of got down, especially against like teams like Michigan State, and I think I saw them against Indiana, they were having problems because they were just settling for a 3-point shot rather than working the ball inside. And where they had an advantage. I mean, they had an advantage in the inside, but it's almost like they went away from that because they foul trouble or whatever. But it just seemed like they would go away from the inside play and then just rely so much on that outside shooting. And I think that's a testament to just where basketball is as a sport now. It's all half-court shots, and all that stuff because of the emergence of guys like Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook and all that.
Well, I mean, there's still a team aspect to it. I mean, obviously Murray State has one transcendent player that's going to lift a mid-major team already over the hump, and they're going to get their shot at Florida State to do the same thing. But a team like Belmont, where you have that, it's spread out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Wofford, that's going to be they're a 7 seed. That team spread out a little bit more. Buffalo, a 6 seed. That team, they play as teams.
Yeah,
they play. You don't have guys that are playing 1 year and leaving for the NBA like you do with Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky. These are guys that stay all 4 years for the most part.
Yeah,
and if a top tier team isn't on their game for that one game against a team that plays together and knows exactly where someone's going to be because they've been playing with them for 3-4 years. That's where you see these upsets here, and that's where you see these mid-majors like Loyola Chicago last year.
Yeah,
and
that was fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
or UMBC last year.
Yes,
that
100%.
Was killer. Virginia killed me.
That's where you see these. So,
I got news for you. Virginia might kill you again this year.
Probably.
If you're locked on.
They're a really talented team. They have a great head coach.
I just don't trust Virginia in the tournament. For some reason, I don't. They have a spotty history.
Well, I guess one question to ask is, who does everybody think are there going to be any surprises? Do you see maybe a team like, say, St. Mary's or one of the higher seeds going far, or who do you think can win it all? Josh Jeffy.
Turn it on, buddy.
Wait, should we mute him again?
Yeah, mute him again.
Yeah, go.
There
Good. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, that felt kind of good.
So
actually.
much power.
Just looking in terms of my bracket, I have Florida State in the Final Four.
Ooh, that's a bold choice.
Wow.
But if it works out, you win. I mean,
that's my surprise pick.
You have Florida State going all the way through.
Florida
Gonzaga?
State had a pretty good season.
And Michigan,
I mean, they're
possibly?
a tough team.
They were in the ACC championship game, were they not? Or the tournament?
Yeah, but I mean, only because North Carolina and Duke played in the semifinals.
It doesn't matter, Sean. They made it. They're the 4th seed. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but just the way that bracket was set up.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. When I'm on top, you're below me.
I think they were going to have their hands full of Murray State.
Yeah,
I do too.
I mean, I think right now, I don't think anyone wants to see Murray State because of the superstar factor there. Now, I mean, Florida State probably top to bottom is much more talented, but in this type of scenario,
well, maybe looking for if in terms of me, how I have them in the Final Four, maybe they're used to the superstar on the other team. They played Zion a few times. They played Duke. They have the top, lottery picks for their team. They played North Carolina, which has got some star power as well. So maybe they're used to that, and maybe they can overcome that.
Or maybe not.
So I think the lowest seed that I have in the Final Four is Villanova. They are 6th seed. The defending national champions and the Big East tournament champions. And this is just more. I'll be honest. That was a pick I just wanted to have different than everybody else because I don't see a whole lot of upsets coming here.
I have Tennessee.
I went with all ones in the Final Four.
You went straight chalk, Rob?
Yeah.
What?
I also have Tennessee in my Final Four.
Oh my God.
I have Tennessee losing to Cincinnati in Columbus.
Ooh.
Whoa.
That was tempting. I went back and forth on that, but
if Virginia loses this year,
Cincinnati.
I will
you
never
could beat
pick
Kentucky
them
at
again.
Kentucky, and you could beat, and play very well in the SEC against pretty good competition. I don't know, but Cincinnati, I don't like Cincinnati. I don't like their coach. I don't like anything about the program. So
Wow.
I have them winning one game just
Cincinnati's been impressive, I thought, this year.
because Mick Cronin is a jerk. So
Oh, do you know him personally?
no, I just don't like him.
Well, isn't that an interesting take?
Dynamite
Sean
drop.
Duffy.
Listen, we're not going to have Mick Cronin on the show. He's never going to listen to this. Mick
He's
Cronin,
listening right now.
Maybe,
I don't like
maybe
it.
not, Sean, but maybe it'll get out on
Mr.
Twitter.
McCronin. Coach
Yeah,
McCronin, if
because
you're
I'm sure I'm
listening,
the
give us
only
a
guy.
call.
I can assure you, I'm not the only guy throwing shade at Mick Cronin right now.
300-pounder at Studio J.
Listen, that's the second time you brought up my weight tonight. I don't understand it.
I'm just trying to get you motivated to run the half marathon.
I'm not
again.
running a half marathon.
Fine.
Let's go, Sean.
Fine, walk it.
I'm not going to walk it either.
Don't be lazy. Let's go.
I'm not lazy.
Sean bailed on us in the St. Malachi. He wouldn't run.
I didn't bail on you.
He
Bailing
wouldn't
in.
run 2 whole miles.
First off, it was a 5-miler that I
well,
ran
there's
last
2
year.
or 5. We picked 5.
So, okay, I wouldn't have ran with you anyway because I ran the 2 mile.
You could have ran with us for the first few miles.
Excuse train coming to the
I-
depot.
listen.
I can't wait to hear the excuse on why he didn't win the bracket challenge again.
I'll tell you the excuse is if Tennessee loses
Jim Tressel's fault.
Cincinnati, I'm in trouble. I've
gonna be
already
the same-
lost the Sweet 16 team.
It's going to be the same excuse for you not winning the belt back.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'll go there now.
Whoa.
Yeah, there is
No, the excuse for that is one word, and he's a Brown now, and it's Kareem Hunt.
there is a
I was
there is a
cruising.
rumor. Sources indicate that belt might be in North Ridgeville Sunday for the Lorain County All-Star basketball game.
Probably.
He's coming into my hometown. He has the gumption, brother, to come into my area. He needs to stay down in Brecksville.
He's going to come into your area, and he's going to bury you.
I don't know, man. I came into this show and to Z's multiple times with the belt and sat right next to you with it. So how's this
You
going
never
to be any
came in
worse?
because this is neutral territory. I expect it. You don't come to my home and rub it in my face.
Well, hey.
Oh,
Josh
man.
did one time, but that was because he was picking the belt up. But still, it was
Well, guys,
good show.
it's been a fun show.
Well, I mean, not for me because I'm fat apparently.
No, you're just fluffy.
No, I'm fat.
Fluffy Duffy? Really?
Wow.
That note.
Well, Sean.
This will be my last show
Yeah, I was going
with
to say,
Sports on Tap.
we
It was
want
nice having
we
nice being
want
a
to
part of
thank
it.
Sean Duffy for being part of our show for
Yeah.
I don't know how
we'll
many
see
years.
if I come back. I don't know. I don't know.
Hey,
Does F and F&G mean fluffy new guy?
Hey,
This is all
we have a
My
spot.
whole,
all his fault.
my whole life,
All his
man.
fault.
Hey, if you want to be part of Sports on Tap, we're always
Yeah,
looking
we're
for
going to have an opening.
It's going to be an open host position for anybody who wants to take it.
Who wants to be part of this?
Yeah.
God.
Just God forbid you have a weight problem or you don't like the Indians.
Boy, hack radio here, folks. My God,
if
what are we
you
doing?
if you want to be part of a cool podcast, or hey, you want to shoot video, you want to write stories, give us a call.
This is also
Actually,
what happens
just
when
send us an
our
email.
guest fails.
sportsontap.podcast@gmail.com. I'm Rob Troutman. For Ed, Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh, Jeffy, good luck with everything in March Madness and your brackets. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye.